Welcome. Welcome to Ignite 2013. My name is Chad Brown. I'm very honored to be you guys' host and MC tonight. What is Ignite? A lot of you probably just showed up because it's a cool thing in a firehouse, right? I'm not really sure what it is. Well, Ignite was started in 2006 in Seattle, Washington. And what it is it's a group of local citizens who just want to share some things that they're interested in and they're passionate about, with the idea being that we're going to start a conversation, right? So hopefully the objective for you guys to take away from tonight is maybe you'll hear something tonight, you might learn something that you didn't know before, and we really want you guys to be inspired, and we're going to have some ways to continue the conversation, and we'll talk about that at the end tonight. So our Ignite here in Salisbury, Ignite is something that happens all over the country. We get the inspiration from Salisbury native Mike Brenner, who is involved with the Ignite Baltimore movement. Ours is a little bit different. This is the first time we've done this, obviously, so there's going to be a few growing pains, but that's okay. That's the fun of it. And really, what we want to see happen as a result of this is the first of many things that we're starting to see, right? It's happening, guys. Look where we are right now. Look what's happening. Look all around you. So we want to see this energy and this collaboration and inspiration and really the momentum. We want to see that continue, and so that's what's happening. There's a lot of interesting things that are going on, and we're committing to starting those types of conversations. So the rules for tonight: we have 13 speakers. I know that sounds like a lot, but they each only get 5 minutes. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker, which is a man who knows a thing or two about style, and I know a little bit about that myself, you know what I'm saying? He is a professor, an instructor, an entrepreneur, and video and branding guru. He brings culture into the visual realm. He is the founder of VisionCreative.tv. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Jesse Campbell.
How's everybody doing? Hopefully I can live up to that. So the first thing that I was taught by my grandfather was when you're speaking to a group of people that you don't know, it's always polite to say hello. So I'd like to say hello and have my informal hello, and we'll get these things started. Typically, people are a lot more formal when they speak, right? And so you have all of these kinds of things. And this is what it looks like, right? This is my LinkedIn, right? So it's more of a resume base. And so I'm an adjunct professor, I do these kinds of things, I have my business. This is all the kinds of things. So there's my formal hello, to follow my informal hello. And then the other thing that you look at is, this is actually what I look like more, right? So you have this whole concept of here's your resume, here's what you do, but I like beer, obviously, I didn't realize how much. There's music, and there's downtown, and hats, and weirdness, but this is actually more like what I look like. And this is how we're starting to share online. So I started thinking about what is it I'm going to talk about. And so I was at Burley Oak, obviously, like I said, I like beer. And what I realized is that we had conversations that were beyond beer. They were about the local economy. They were about local produce. They were about all of these things that were much more conceptual and not just about beer. So culture, this is a band. It's one of the top reggae bands in the world. And next week I have the pleasure of shooting a music video. So I said, okay, culture, it's come back into my life, someone I've always looked back to. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit about culture. Culture is a big topic. So what does it say? Frank Lloyd Wright said that a lack of culture means, as it's always meant, that an ignoble civilization is, and therefore it's an imminent downfall. So with a lack of culture, obviously we're destined to fail. So now we have to think about, what does culture mean? We all realize that we need culture. We all talk about building a culture. We're downtown. We need to have this culture of being here. So the definition, typically what we relate to is the noun, right? And it's the arts and other manifestations of human intellect, or it's the cultivation of bacteria and other cells in the living environment. I don't know, that's it. So is this what culture looks like? Culture doesn't look like yogurt to me, but that's how we usually think about it. So as I started thinking about culture more, I said, well, what does it mean? And so what I do a lot of times, because I teach, I look at the roots of words, and I look at where the words come from. Well, culture actually, its predominant, its first one is a verb. And culture is maintaining in suitable conditions for growth. Right? So that's what we're looking at in terms of culture. So if we want to have a culture, we have to incorporate culture into what we do. And this is more what culture looks like to me. Is it Third Friday? I talked to Jamie Heater, and she said that culture, she said Third Friday is a time and a place. It's a time and a place for us to share culture, for us to share art, for us to come together and support the arts. And so that is very important to me. Or does culture look like this? A father and a son working in a building that could be abandoned and no longer, but here we are tonight in the same building, right? Is that part of culture? To me, that's kind of what culture is. And then also, the next thing about culture is maybe it's a group of faithful people coming together to go out into their city and do good and to change and to go and to be a part of what it is in that city. That's a part of culture to me. So then you start to worry about the negative aspects of culture. Gentrification always comes in when you're talking about developing something in a situation. And it's a form of cultural subversion, right? So here's the responsibility that we're tasked with. Do we want our culture to look like this? I don't know how many of you remember going to Tony's Pizza or going to get your newest cassette from Camelot Music, but I do when I went from football practice, and that's no longer a part of what we're doing. So that's what culture can also be, is a changing and a deterioration. Is this progress? Maybe. It's certainly change. It's certainly something that's ongoing and we can't stick to, and we can't just stay where we want to stay. So if we don't take care of what's important to us and actually be a part of that, as evidenced by when I played football, it started with 13 people, we were the worst team ever. And by the time we were seniors, we built a culture, and that culture became the best team in our school's history. We were undefeated, and we were one of the first teams from our school to go across the bridge and win. All right, so that was a part of building that culture. The importance of what you do in culture, going back to our yogurt, right, is if you introduce contamination, then you're going to spoil your culture. And what you're going to have is you're going to have a ruined concept, and it's not going to go ahead. This is why it's important to me. These are my kids. And we come down, my kids come down here almost every day. And that's why culture is important to me. Why is that culture important to me? Because every time I look through my children, I realize what the importance of culture is for me, the action of culturing. And so when I watch comic book movies with my kids, I remember reading comic books with my dad. When I see my kids like the Steelers, I'm not a Steelers fan, so don't beat me up. But my grandmother was, and they like music, and they like books. And that's a part of building the culture of our family. And none of these pictures were mine. So I borrowed them all from the internet. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. And speaking for some in the room, I'm never eating yogurt again. Our next speaker is a Chamber and Greater Salisbury Committee leader who brings spirit and positivity to civic and business challenges. He is both area manager for BBSI, he's the Eastern Shore Director of BNI Maryland, and officially mayor of Mayberry for life, Mr. Tony Nichols.
I don't know who I owe for the Mayberry comment, but it's coming. Glad to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about who you are. Before I get started, this would have been the greatest Ignite ever, but the Who was already booked, and they couldn't sing behind the presentation. So we'll just start with the slide and who you are. And really what I really want to begin with is what I'll hit in the middle of the presentation, is who you be, they are becoming. So it's really about who you are now, but who you be, they are becoming. Because today, you're not the same person that you were yesterday. And tomorrow, you will not be the same person that you are today. You might think you are, but you're not. You're changing. And as you're changing, you're becoming something that you don't know what you're going to turn into unless you focus that. Let's think about, for instance, a $50 block of steel. In its raw form, it's just worth $50, and it's nothing more than a very heavy paperweight. But if you take that block of steel and you compare it to a single person that really can't see themselves as being able to impact a community or impact a family or impact a state or a world even, you're wrong, because it's what that person does with themselves that makes all the difference in the world. Let's go back to that $50 bar of iron or steel. If you take that $50 bar of steel and you turn it into horseshoes, it's not worth $50 anymore. It's now worth $250 because of what you've done, what you've turned that bar of steel into. Taking it one step further, if you take that $50 bar of steel and you turn it into kitchen knives, because of what you've crafted into those kitchen knives, it's now worth $2,500. So it's not really the content or the amount of material that's changed, it's what you've done with it. So by now, hopefully, you're asking yourself a question, is he talking about me? because I am. I'm asking you to ask yourself, what are you doing, and what can you become to make things change, to make things better, whether it be in Salisbury or around, because if you keep doing the same old thing, you're going to keep getting the same old results. Everyone knows that's the definition of insanity. So why be insane? The sanity is actually in the insanity. So do something different. What keeps us from doing something different? A lot of times it's because we won't think out of the box. And that's because maybe sometimes it's fear, maybe it's complacency, maybe it's assumption, because you assume that no one's ever going to buy into the concept of a firehouse hosting a cool event, or maybe it's a habit. Go back to the $50 bar of steel. Let's take that $50 bar of steel and now turn it into surgical needles. It's not worth $2,500 anymore. It's worth $25,000. Content of the steel, the amount of the steel hasn't changed. It's what you did with the steel that made all the difference in the world. Take it one step further. Let's take that $50 bar of steel and turn it into Swiss watch springs. It's now worth $250,000. So what are you going to do? The question that you should be asking yourself is, so what is he saying? What I'm saying is it's about you and what you can do, and what you can do in the community, and how you can look at yourself and morph into something different tomorrow than you are today. Remember I said at the beginning, who you be is, or what other people are becoming. When you see that, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see what can be, or do you see what is? Because there's a can be in all of us. Back to that $50 bar of steel. In that steel, it makes all the difference in the world in you. Do you see yourself as just a single person that can't really impact Salisbury or the city of Salisbury? Or do you see yourself as someone that can do something special? Are you the person that understands that who you be, they are becoming? Because they're watching you. So the question you need to ask yourself is, who are you?
All right, welcome to the stage, Mr. James Lees.
I might have to spend 5 minutes adjusting this, so just hold on for a second, just to get it right. All right, can you hear me? Good? All right. There's a downtown. This was what I thought I was questioning when I first started working at the health department. I didn't know there was a downtown. I didn't know there was anything going on. But I have a lot of passion for downtown, working with several people starting businesses down here to change it. There's a lot of negativity. We need to change that to positivity down here. Just a picture of downtown and what's going on here. Sorry, I'm not used to that. Yep. Why urban? Urban means relating to or concerned with a city. Again, like I said, I was really concerned with what was going on down here. I wanted to change it. And looking at the characteristics of the city and the city life of what was down here, there wasn't much, and we need to do something to change that. To me, when I step back to actually look at the city, to me, any city is energy. It's where things are happening. People are going to do things. They're going to stores. They're going to their bank. They're going to see doctors downtown. So things are being accomplished, and that's what we need to do in the city here, is make things that can be accomplished. Looking at some of the negative characteristics that we have here, these are things that I've heard when I first tried to open up businesses, was high crime, no parking, that there was poverty, there was a lot of noise down here. It just wasn't a personable place to be, and there was traffic and congestion. These are all things we can change. So we've got to subtract negativity and add positivity into what we speak into the life of the city. If we step back and take a look at what positivity is, it's showing pleasing progress, gain, or improvement. So I questioned, what are we gaining within our city and what are we improving? These are questions we should be asking ourselves, what we want to do to improve our city. Some of the things that we can do is use what we already have that's a positive asset, which is get Salisbury University involved. Now they're downtown with an art gallery down here. Use PRMC, have students going there and have them involved in our city too. There's church organizations like Remedy who are doing things down here, and the Ward Museum. There's museums, so people look at different things that they can do downtown along with the Parks and Recreation. Some of the things that we can do using those to improve is business-to-business relationships. Just having more events. Third Friday is a great thing, and every month I step back and look at that, and it's getting better and better, and there's more and more people down here. We also need to listen to people and take their words into consideration. Instead of speaking more, we got to listen more. And here with listening to suggestions, like I said, we got to listen more to what people are saying. I'm not from around here. I'm actually from Delmar, and I'm highly involved with the city. I had a word that I want to get out there and ideas that I want to do. And luckily, the city officials listened to them, and they worked with us when we were trying to open up businesses, and that's what all of us need to do more. Business-to-business relationship is key. It improves from the inside of our city out. Working with other businesses with Main Roots, we worked with Cake Art, and we're now selling our cupcakes, which they make, and it uses our espresso. So it's just working together within our city, building those relationships that we need to do more of. We also should use our space to host events. Here on the left we have Bike SBY meeting, and then also on the right is Young Professionals. Using these spaces and having events down here just shows people that people are here and that people are moving around and things are being accomplished. Going to the negativity that there was about the parking, which really there isn't much negativity. If you go to Frederick, Maryland, you got to pay on weekends. Here you don't have to pay on weekends. There's 2 hours free parking in the library parking lot and then also the parking garage. We need to push this out more and let people know that these things are here through our businesses, through our Facebook pages and social media. And then also here's a picture of Bull, who's the cop downtown. People complained about crime, and I said, what crime? I feel safe walking at night, going from one place to the next. And there's that fear that people don't want to start businesses down here because there's crime. And there really, as a business owner, there isn't. Here's a great thing that's happening. Actually, this is going to be showing tomorrow for the third Friday, is the revealing of the painting on the library. Cleaning these spaces up, coming together as a community is key, and this is something we need to work on. And this is a great example of a start. Here's another picture in front of the Main Roots with one of the partners, Nate Johnston. This is a quote I love. It was recently in the newspaper. We believe in it because we see how much people do. When people come together and they care about what's going on, and when the city worked with us to do the patio out front, it just motivated us to do more, and it's going to motivate others to do more too. So different things to look at in the community that people can get involved with is join the Chamber of Commerce, go to young professional meetings, get involved with Bike SBY, and go to a church like Remedy Church downtown that's doing things. Pedal Through the Park's a great thing too that's going on right out in front of Main Roots, where we're getting together outside of the shop. People drive by, they see that there's people outside, and then we're going around the city and just connecting. Social media is also a key thing that we need to do. Like I said, post pictures, use Instagram, Facebook, tweet. And on this next slide here, there's going to be a couple different hashtags that we have. And there recently in the newspaper has been a debate on the different hashtags that are used. But for all the different hashtags that are out there, I say we just need to keep using them. It doesn't matter what we post or what we use. It's just showing people that there are things that are happening down here. For example, YSBY. Ignite SBY, there's Bury SBY, and then also recently Bury Pride, and happy with what's going on in the city. Doesn't matter, like I said, what you post, you just do it and get pictures out there and showing the progress. The biggest thing we can do is populate the urban core and just make sure we all are banking, shopping, and recreating within our downtown area.
Our next presenter is the director of our beloved Wicomico Public Library. She also recently served as president of the Association for Rural and Small Libraries. Tonight, she joins us after a recent public hearing on funding for the library and other projects. We promise to be less lucrative, but a little bit more fun. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Andrea.
I'm going to turn, hopefully, all your perceptions about libraries on their ear just a bit. We all know libraries, books, okay? Let's set that aside for a moment. We're going to talk about what a library is. Really, what is a library? What do libraries do? What is their essence? What makes them special? And most importantly, are libraries dead? Are they dying? Do they have a future? I would like to think so. I've got a few more years as a director in me. But it depends on what you think of when you think of a library. When you see the word library, what comes to you visually? Is it this? Is it books and bookshelves and a place where people sit and they read quietly and they don't disturb anybody? I have bad news for you. This library, it doesn't have much longer to go. Is it this? A bunch of computers, people sit, they browse, they get the ebooks thing going, they download things on their tablets and surf the web. At some point, this library is also going to go by the wayside. However, if you see libraries as a place where people connect, where people connect with one another, your library then has a very promising future. Libraries are about people connecting to information, they're about people connecting to ideas, and they're about people connecting with each other. In a word, libraries are about sharing. They are a community organization built by a community to serve the people in that community. They take what I know, and they take what you all know, and they make it become what we know. Libraries connect us to people from far away and long ago. These stories capture the essence of a culture, and they share that culture with us so we can connect with them. And then they take our culture and they write it down and they share it with people in other places and in times yet to come. They also connect us with explorers and scientists from years past. And they take the people in the world now and connect them, and so that future scientists and future innovators also have that information. Libraries share because the people around us share. They share with people who want to learn and people who want to learn how to learn. Libraries collect information and share it so everyone can benefit. Now, sharing means give and take, okay? Communities support libraries. We get funding, we get volunteers, we get donations, we get teamwork. Every once in a while we get a mural. But how do libraries give back? Well, libraries give back to the economy. Studies have shown that people who come down to a library spend about $7 every time they come to the library. Parking, coffee, restaurants, gas, pharmacies, dry cleaning. So let's say on the Eastern Shore they spend $5, because we know everything's cheaper here, right? So downtown Salisbury Library has about 800 people every day that visit the library. That is $4,000 a day at $5 a person. We are open 300 days a year. That is $1.2 million that our library visitors spend in downtown Salisbury. Libraries provide community connections. We let people connect to one another. We let them connect to ideas. We are about them sitting down with their friends and colleagues and figuring out ideas and figuring out projects. People also connect online to friends, via email, social media, that sort of thing. Oh, yeah, speaking of online, everything's online, right? Getting information from the internet's like getting it from a fire hydrant. We give you vetted information, authoritative information, and we support those new ideas. Libraries support early learning. We are educators. We were one of the first ever to provide early literacy, early learning, school readiness. And for years, we have provided those opportunities for kids to engage with the written word. We also provide learning for everyone. Through classes and workshops, we do self-directed education. Libraries are education. Yeah, I love Dr. Seuss. Don't you love him? Isn't he great? The importance of lifelong learning skills can't be underestimated. As education moves from classrooms to living rooms, okay, it's even more important that people have information access and information skills. And the true illiteracy of the future is the person who doesn't know how to learn, not the person who doesn't know how to read. So what about this? Studies show that 60% of people have interacted with the library in the last 12 months, 60%. And 91% say that libraries are an important part of the community. That's a lot of people. Libraries contribute to the economy, they provide education, they enrich the community. For years it was predicted that libraries would become superfluous, mausoleums for books. Instead, library visits exceed the annual attendance at sporting events, concerts, and museums combined. It turns out that the very electronic revolution that was supposed to make libraries obsolete has instead made them indispensable. Thank you.
The next speaker might describe herself as an eternal optimist, but even that's a bit of an understatement. She's ever working to enhance the future, whether as a professor of marketing at Salisbury University, enhancing the next generation of business leaders, or as a founder of Kids of Honor, a community organization dedicated to helping young people pursue their dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Paula Morris.
Thank you for inviting me here to speak with you today. I am Paula Morris, and I am a dream catcher. I encourage young people to follow their dreams. Positive youth development ignites the sparks in all of our lives. The best way to ignite Salisbury is with our young people. Let's light up, fire up, excite, ignite the flames of our young people's dreams. I often wonder when we ask young people, what do you want to be when you grow up? Why do we pour water on the sparks of their dreams? You ask a young person and they say, I'm going to be in the NBA. And we say, do you know the odds of making a pro? Why do we do that? I believe I have an answer. You see, young people think that their life journey looks like this. I want to be in the NBA, and I'm going to get there. And we know it's not that simple. So we attempt to help young people understand that there might be some disappointments in life. And we help them avoid those. But truly, can we? This young lady wanted to be just like her hero, her daddy, a doctor. So she told him, "Daddy, I'm going to grow up and be just like you. I'm going to be a doctor." And do you know what her daddy said? "Nope, girls are nurses. You can't be a doctor." My mom would have been a really, really good doctor, but my granddad extinguished that flame. So, as adults, we know that life's roads a little bumpy. There are pitfalls to avoid, obstacles to overcome. And so how do we get young people to climb over those obstacles on the way to their dreams? How do we get them farther down the path toward success? We do it by listening, by coming from a place of curiosity instead of judgment. And then when they give us our dreams, we fan the flames of their passions. So I met Sue at a conference, and I asked her, "Tell me about you. What excites you and keeps you going every day?" And she said, "Oh, my daughter, she's 5. She wants to be a princess when she grows up. And I'm really struggling trying to help her understand that that's not going to happen." Sue, here's a thought. Instead of telling your daughter she can't be a princess, what if you asked her about her passions? What is it about being a princess that's really exciting? And then you could ask her some tough questions like, "Tell me about the monetary policy you will have in place in your kingdom. And, oh, by the way, how are you going to keep all of your subjects employed?" I saw Sue recently, and I said, "Sue, how did it go with your daughter?" And she said, oh, it was funny. She said, I asked her those hard questions, and she looked at me and she said, "Mommy, that sounds really hard. Would you be okay if I just be a doctor instead? And do you think they'll let me wear my tiara to class?" And I said, "Sure they will. This is my daughter. She's 20. She's working at the National Nuclear Security Administration, and her coworkers give her coffee and a tiara for her birthday. She's now 22, in grad school, studying terrorism and conflict resolution. And she says when it's a bad day of studying, she sometimes puts on her tiara. It just helps, Mom. Why would we take that away from our kids?" So this is Peter Benson. He's one of my heroes. And I wonder when he's a little boy, does he know that he's going to grow up and write books about positive youth development that are going to inspire people like me? His book about sparks really speaks to the dream catcher in me. I'd like to share with you a couple of stories, not about sparks. I'd love to tell you more about that. But let me tell you about some of my other kids, the ones that I've met through my work in the community and the college. This is Nathan. I met Nathan when he was in middle school at Y-High, goofing off a lot. And Nathan has just come back from Jamaica at a research conference presenting a paper on the prevention of prostate cancer. And I can't wait to see where Nathan goes next. Nkongo taught Kids of Honor that nothing is impossible. Her passion is writing, and she is currently a junior at College Park studying journalism. And then there's Danny. Danny was one of my marketing students, and she started an on-campus organization called Women in Leadership. She graduated with 2 degrees and has just taken a wonderful job, and she makes her daddy really proud. So, my challenge to you, listen to young people. Embrace positive youth development. Encourage and support them as they pursue their dreams. Do it with curiosity, not judgment. And yes, let's ignite the sparks in our youth. Join me. Be a dream catcher. Thank you.
Our next guest is committed to helping people better themselves. At her family-owned pharmacy in Salisbury, she's an expert at guiding people toward better health. But the rest of the day, she's starting even earlier in life, guiding the next generation toward a better life as a teacher at the Salisbury School. Please welcome Ms. Melissa Johnson.
All right, I'm living proof that you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't make her shut up. So I had to take the teacher part with me. All right, this is a big-ass jet. If you're on one of these, you are really going someplace with 415 of your new best friends. And when one of these things crashes, you hear about it. Finger pointing, chaos, massive loss of life, demand for answers. You may wonder what this has to do with pharmacy or prescription drug abuse. And this is it. In 2010, more people died from prescription drug overdoses than if a fully loaded 747 had crashed every week for a year. Where's the hand-wringing? Where's the outrage? Why don't we want answers? You may say, okay, that's sad, but junkies are going to kill themselves. What am I going to do about it? And I use the word junkies purposefully here. It's convenient. It's an us versus them word. They're the junkies, we're the good people. All right, this is what got me fired up. On the right are my talented, smart, beautiful girls, and on the left is a man with a gun in the pharmacy. Those are my two worlds, home and work. They really don't go well together in that context. Quick disclaimer, I'm not anti-prescription drug. First of all, that would be silly. It feeds my family, it pays the bills. And it used properly, prescription drugs are an important part of medical treatment for millions of Americans. But back to the junkies, that's what I'm here to talk about. You have a solid picture of what a junkie looks like, right? Okay? Remember, they're the junkies, we're the good guys. But sometimes junkies look like this. I hate updating this slide, but beautiful, talented people keep killing themselves in front of the whole world. Why didn't someone tell them that junkies are stupid and ugly and they're supposed to die where no one sees them? Frankly, most of the junkies I deal with every day look like me, and they look like you. So how about moving away from the us and them of junkies and recognizing that they are us? They're our parents, our kids, our neighbors, they're our coworkers, and they're sick and scared and willing to do terrible things, but they are us and they need help. Okay, woman, I'm not an idiot. I don't abuse drugs, I'm a good parent, I trust my doctor and my pharmacist. They wouldn't let me take anything dangerous. I got this. Great. But remember that time you had that procedure and the doctor wrote your prescription and it worked really, really well and you felt great and you didn't use it all? And then your friend hurt herself and she needed some and you gave it to her. This next slide for this one. Yeah, okay. So you gave that to her. It's not legal. Okay, that may be the least of your concerns. It's a violation of federal law. The sticker's there for a reason. But it's also a part of the problem. A bigger part of the problem is that we don't know what we've got. We don't know what's in the medicine cabinet. Chances are you have or have had one of these in your medicine cabinet. In fact, most ADHD drugs are classified as having the same potential for addiction as oxycodone. All right, we usually tally statistics using deaths because dead addicts are in fact sexier than living, breathing addicts. But if you look at it in terms of deaths, for every death, there are 825 medical users. If you extrapolate out to those 22,000 plus deaths from the 747, you've got 18,150,000 people affected. Does it matter yet? No. We've got better than 18 million lives affected, more than 22,000 junkies dead a year, and a house full of potentially deadly but legal drugs. And some of you still don't see what the big deal is about. You're ready for me to shut up, but I still got 2 minutes. So, this is for the cynics. Prescription drug abuse costs you money. Even if you're not a user, it costs you money. It costs you money in your insurance premiums, in your income taxes. If you're an employer, it costs you money in your payroll. Total cost is better than $122 billion every year. All right, we've talked about the problem at the national level, and it's big. More people die in this country from accidental overdose than die in car accidents now. And in Maryland, admissions related to opioid analgesic admissions, that's Oxy and his friends, were up 106% between 2007 and 2010, and we are overachieving in Wycomico County. We are up 223%. So, we have a problem. And I can stomp my foot and yell about it all day long, and in fact I do, But I need your help. We need to stop shutting up. Don't shut up at home. Our silence is deafening, and our kids hear it, and our partners hear it, and our parents hear it. Our silence is screaming, "It's not my problem. I don't want to make waves." Don't shut up in our community. Addiction is a disease, and it's a public health crisis. Be prepared to be ignored or worse, but shutting up to be polite has the potential to be deadly. So you may not be ready to stop shutting up yet. You may not be ready to be loud, but take a small step first. If you do have these drugs in your house, old drugs that you're not using for pain, anxiety, or ADHD, get rid of them. It's really easy. So start here. Local police stations have drop boxes. In public spaces, you can walk in, drop those drugs off, and walk away. There's no paperwork, there's no interview, it's easy, and it's a first step to getting it out of your house and out of your medicine cabinet, where people may be looking for it already. So this prescription for this epidemic has to be community-based. A public health crisis requires the public to be involved in the solution. So please, step up, don't shut up. We need us.
So there's a pretty good chance that our next presenter rode his bike here tonight. In fact, his name is synonymous with biking in this city. He is a gifted engineer and an executive with AWB Engineers and Architects in Salisbury. He is also founder of the bike advocacy organization Bike SBY. Please welcome Mr. Matt Drew.
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to start with words that I didn't write. These were words written by Mr. Casey Climes in an article titled, "The Reason Why Bicycles Are the Key to Better Cities." Mr. Climes writes, "We all know all the talking points. The benefits of bicycles have been tirelessly elaborated upon. Bicycles improve health, they ease congestion, they save money, they use less space, and they provide efficient transportation with zero fuel consumption." He goes on to say that the most vital element for the future of our cities is that the bicycle is an instrument of experiential understanding. On a bicycle, citizens experience their city with intimacy. In a car, the world is reduced to a mere equation. What's the fastest route from A to B? The environment, the beauty of architecture, the faces of neighbors, all of this becomes a blur from the driver's seat. Mr. Climes concludes by saying, "One cannot turn a blind eye on a bicycle. You must acknowledge your community, all of it. Here lies the secret weapon of the urban renaissance." So you're probably saying, we're already starting to make Salisbury more bicycle friendly. What else can we do to achieve this enlightenment? Cycling's gateway drug has a name, and it's called bike share. For those that aren't familiar with the term, bike share is an organized system where people use bikes like library books. Check out a bike, use it for a short trip, and then leave it in a place to be checked out again. Does it sound familiar? I bet you remember seeing red bikes on your last trip to the Air and Space Museum in DC. Or you read an article about a system that started in New York City this last summer. Well, that's exactly right. You've seen bike share. How will bike share succeed in Salisbury? Well, to do that, we need a scalable system that can adapt to our local needs. We need that system to be economically sustainable, and we need a system to leverage our existing destinations and institutions. So how do we bring bike share to our town? Well, there's an innovative company that's developed an approach that meets our needs, and their name is Social Bicycles. Social Bicycles is an affordable, scalable, and shareable bike that can easily be accessed by subscribers. The access system is self-contained to allow for maximum flexibility. The integrated bike lock design allows the bike to be secured to existing bike racks. Expensive, bulky, fixed bike docks like DC are not required. Each bike is equipped with its own GPS so that anybody who needs a bike can find it. The bikes will be available at existing institutions and businesses who would benefit from this last-mile transit system. In Salisbury, bikes will be made at parking garages, hospitals, schools, universities. Virtual hubs would be created around businesses and shops that would benefit from increased bike traffic. Fees will be kept reasonable so that local residents, students, and visitors could use the system every day. Supporting businesses will provide incentives to use shared bikes for advertising and preferential fares within business-sponsored virtual hubs. Operating costs will be kept low by giving bike share users an economic incentive to rebalance the bikes. And supporting businesses will provide tablet-based kiosks in their stores for reserving bikes. Salisbury's future bike lane plans will be used to grow more bike share hub locations. As we promote and build more bicycle-friendly merchants and bike racks, it becomes easier to implement bike share. During the summer of 2013, Social Bicycles outfitted the city of Hoboken, New Jersey with 25 bikes to demonstrate the effectiveness of their system. This pilot program provided real-world data on how the bikes would be utilized. I met with Social Bicycles and tested the Hoboken system, and it was very impressive. So what's our next step? Implement a similar pilot project here in Salisbury by placing 25 bikes throughout our community. Start a 6-month pilot program next spring, and if this pilot program is a success, Salisbury's bike share will become a permanent system. Thanks very much.
So the next speaker is all action all the time, never afraid to take the first step while others deliberate, myself included. He is a living testament to revitalizing our city. He has moved not only his congregation at Remedy Church into downtown, but also his beautiful family. My friend and yours, Mr. Ryan Weaver.
Hello. Yeah, good. I want to start out by just saying simply, welcome to the Renaissance. Yeah. It's happening. I mean, this is what we talk about, it's what we dream about, it's what we hope for, a day when things come back together. And so we pause press just to say, the whole SBY thing, let's discuss mission and hope, Renaissance, before we ever talk about branding. Branding matters, but branding will always follow mission, passion, dreams. So it's a hope that I have within my heart, and I want to talk about just briefly with you, and I'll probably leave time on the clock, because you've heard a lot of great stuff tonight, great ideas. I just hope to catalyze a few of those and send you further into investigation with the following. The word utopia. Say it. Come on. Utopia. Yeah, good. See, you're good. Way to go. Very good. Utopia. Utopia is a Greek word which was originally coined in a book called Utopia in the 16th century. But its origins go way back, all the way back to about 300 years before the clock rolled over and we started counting forward again. This thinking about utopia has seeped into so much of what we do and how we think that I want to make sure that we're paying close attention to it, because many of us haven't been and we aren't. Green grass, utopia. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Margaritaville. There's a beach somewhere out there with your name on it. And there's probably a chest of Corona sitting there or something. These thinking, thoughts, advertising, ideas we're inundated with constantly, and it just seeped into us that utopia must be somewhere. But in fact, the word utopia literally means in the Greek, no place. It's nowhere. No place. The word is intended to inspire thoughts about green grass and hope beyond hope, but the truth is, the very essence of the word is nowhere. So, two real big thoughts I want to throw at you. One, every place is broken. Broken places are all around us. They're in everywhere we are. Relationships, friendships, family. Broken places are everywhere. Look at the building we're in. I came here with a friend of mine a couple of months ago and took a tour of this building and walked through it and went down in the basement. I don't know if we're allowed to go down there. It's totally epic. Just FYI, if you sneak down. I don't know if that's allowed. It's cool, though. Broken places are everywhere. And you can see what this building was intended for originally, but for like 10 years, it's been just sitting here. Broken places are everywhere. The streets, vacant buildings, our neighborhoods. Every place is broken. But additionally, every place is sacred. That's the promise, that's the hope, that's the beauty, in that everywhere we are, we can claim as sacred space. This is sacred. Men used to gather in this building, this very building, and sleep here, on the ready and on the call to jump down a fire pole right over there that's not there anymore. And they would slide down that fire pole, and they would run and jump in a truck, and they would leave out this door to go save someone from this. This place is sacred. But so is your backyard and your office, whether it's a cubicle or whether it's a corner office overlooking a city. Every space is sacred. And the sooner we stop thinking about this utopia stuff like greener grass and 5 o'clock somewhere as if the dream and the adventure and the hope and everything is somewhere else, the better off our sacred spaces and sacred relationships and sacred people will be. And that's a starting point. In the book of Isaiah, Isaiah writes to a people in exile, the Israelites, and he says the following: "Your people will rebuild the old cities that are now in ruins. You will rebuild their foundations. You will be known for repairing the broken places and for rebuilding the roads and the houses." May we claim these things as our own, because everywhere is broken and every place is sacred. And it starts with mission. Not with branding, not with cutesy hashtags, not with front page articles, or with finances. It starts with mission. And that leads to alignment and a remembering that the Renaissance has already begun. Welcome to the Renaissance.
Here to talk to us about his neighborhood in Newtown, Mr. Jeff Smith.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. They said to talk about something you're passionate about. I'm passionate about my neighborhood. And I got the little clicker here, so I'm going to talk about the Newtown Historic District and the Newtown Association. Newtown Historic District was formed in 1975 by an ordinance by the City Commission, and the Newtown Association is the neighborhood association for Newtown. Newtown's north of Route 50 and east of 13. For those of you that don't know, it's just on the other side of the thing. It's actually downtown. It's a downtown neighborhood, and it's a nice little neighborhood. The neighborhood was started after the fire of 1886, when they decided to move the houses out of the downtown business district so they didn't get burned down again. It's full of federal, Victorian, colonial, craftsman, empire houses, and it's a great little neighborhood. This is a walking tour brochure we have for the neighborhood. It's got a list of a bunch of the different houses and a description of them, the different architectural styles and what have you of the houses. Here's 4 of the houses that are on the tour. We have the White House there is the Delaney House. The red house is the Perry Cooper house. The one down here on this corner here is Mrs. Harold's schoolhouse, and the last house is the Gillis Greer house. These are 4 different styles of houses, and they're all right there in the Newtown Historic District. We do a lot in Newtown giving back to our neighborhood and to our community. There's several projects that we do on a regular basis. One is we have bump outs on Isabella Street. We had a problem. The cars used to speed down Isabella Street, and the city came up with this solution to this problem by putting these curbs in there that make people go around them. They have to go slow, and it sometimes works. But they planted them, and when they planted them, the city asked Newtown if we would maintain them. They would plant them, and we would maintain them. So this is one of our work days when some of the neighbors got together and went out and pulled weeds and, cleaned up the trash and the things and made them look pretty again. And the other pictures down here are, it's called Robin's Nest Park, and that's a park on the corner of Gay Street and Parsons Street. And it was a house there at one time, and somehow the city got property to the house, or got title to the house. The house burned down. The city took over the property, and they gave it to Newtown to create a park there, and the condition of that was that we would maintain that. And here we had a problem where the ground was settling, and Neil called Mike Molds at the Public Works and set up to have the city come out and help us to redo the sidewalks and fill in the low spots there. So about 7 city workers and 7 volunteers from Newtown got together one day and took up the bricks and filled in the settled ground and created new sidewalks there. We have different social events during the year. We have about 4 of them that we do regularly. One is the ice cream social, and we have a block party where we'll block the street off, and all the neighbors get together and we cook hot dogs and hamburgers and things like that and have a party. We do our annual dinner. This year our guest speaker was Jake Day, and we hold that at the Chipman Center, which if anyone doesn't know is a fabulous building, a historic church. We also do an Easter egg hunt that we have at the Robin's Nest Park. And Newtown Association, we've been in continuous operation since 1974. We have a focus on historic preservation. It gives us a purpose and common interest beyond the usual challenges to neighborhoods. I mean, we have some additional problems that most neighborhoods don't. And we get great support from the city of Salisbury. We have an active board of directors, and we're enjoying a period of renewal right now. And I'm 11 seconds over, so I'm going to shut up.
Before opening West Main Recording Studios, our next guest worked with major recording artists, producers, and engineers in Nashville, Tennessee, turning their tunes into the product we hear on the radio and more likely probably download on our digital devices. And he's bringing that talent right now to our downtown plaza. Please give a warm welcome to my good friend, Mr. Garrett Davis.
Thank you, guys. This is a simple symbol that we all associate with something I'm very passionate about, and that is music. We've all heard music, we've all consumed it, we all have used it in many different ways. Some of those ways change as the music culture around us changes. We're now downloading, streaming. Many of us probably have every single one of these accounts. I know I do. It tells us that we're used to having instant music at our fingertips, accessible anytime on any device in any format. More than $6 billion were paid from us downloading and purchasing this music. Streaming is now taken off, and we spend over $1 billion per year in streaming. What does that tell us about our current music culture? That tells us that we've kind of gone into a instant consumption of music, on the go. We normally listen in short stints while we're doing stuff like going to the gym for a jog, or riding our bike, or having it in the background as noise while we're working. No longer are we walking into a record store to go buy and pre-order a record 2 months before it comes out on vinyl, and then going home and listening to that for a week straight, holding the actual album looking at the artwork, and just getting the excitement of the authenticity of that performance that was captured onto this record. Authenticity is a beautiful thing in music because that performance certainly inspires a lot of young people, a lot of young musicians, and a lot of creatives. It gives us a human connection that we then can use to change people's lives, change people's moods, and continue to provide that connection to other people. And then that starts sometimes in the classroom at schools, from our passion, from listening to those records and performing them. And then we start to hang out in like social environments. And those environments provide us with people like us, other musicians. Eventually, we get some of our buddies together and we start to play music in front of nobody. We practice entire summers in a garage playing horrible music that we hope to eventually play in front of people sometime. That sometime turns into a grassroots movement of us having this yearning to play in front of other people and share our creative thoughts in the musical form. We start playing at Knights of Columbus's, VFW's, youth groups, maybe even a family barbecue. I've done that a few times. That being said, eventually this builds up to something. It's something that we want to do in our future, we want to grow towards, and that's playing a real show. Actual playing a show with real sound, real production, real people. It gives us that connection. It starts to create a scene and a culture and a community, possibly even maybe a fan. With that, we start to get things that are pretty much amazing, and that is instant feedback. And with that instant feedback and critiques and fans, we start to put in a lot of hard work, and eventually, some people do it successfully. And that turns into people like this. Many of you probably have seen these guys. The Beatles, Bob Dylan, John Mayer. They all started off in a garage. Brings me to my next point, Salisbury. What do we have going on down here in the music culture? Well, we have a lot, to be honest. Salisbury is full of creatives, artists, storytellers. We have tons of art galleries, but what we lack most is a place like this, an all-ages music venue. What would this give us? Well, I'm not talking about a bar with a small stage. I'm talking about a stage with a small bar. I'm talking about a place that is designed to create opportunities. And those opportunities can sometimes, when they're harnessed, can inspire a next generation and in a powerful and authentic way, inspire people to create music to be heard in other places. That being said, Salisbury is pretty much perfect for this. Reason being, we're within 5 hours of 8 large metropolitan areas that have thriving music cultures. Those music cultures have the ability to reach tons of artists and tons of fans. We're right on the way to going anywhere. Salisbury needs consistent original music to start having a thriving culture of music and artists here, maybe even some propelling them into a career. Your mission is to actually step up and start engaging in this. Engaging in it will start to create a demand. Creating a demand will start to support local musicians. All you have to do is go out and experience it. And that experiencing and that encouraging happens through simple things like going out to concerts, supporting Kickstarters and crowdfunding campaigns, which has basically taken all entertainment industries by storm, and just simply buying their music on the account you already said you have. I believe that Salisbury has the next one of these guys, and I believe it's our job to start doing something about it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is an entrepreneur for entrepreneurs. Say that 10 times fast. I didn't write that. That was our city council president, Jake Day. So you can direct bad joke hashtags to Jacob Day on Facebook. Hashtag Ignite Salisbury, SBY. In a previous life, our next speaker had tremendous success in launching his own startups and devoted his time since to building the Eastern Shore Entrepreneurship Center, which helps startups learn to grow. And he has many amazing projects, including hotdesks.org, the Eastern Shore's first co-working space. Please welcome Mr. Mike Delkey.
Thank you. If I may, I'd like to start by saying, as someone who's witnessed the Ignite Baltimore event, they got nothing over Salisbury after this evening. I'm here to talk to you about creating an alternative opportunity for our youth. I'm just basically trying to advance a conversation about lives of prosperity for our youth. I want to create a different perspective on the creative class. So are we creating lives of prosperity for our youth? I mean, 40 years ago, a student out of high school used to be able to get a job at the local factory down the street. And then after 20 years ago, when factories started to die away, they could always pretty much get a foothold in the workforce at a store or restaurant. But those days are gone. Manufacturing has sort of gone away. There's lots of excuses, globalization, the entry of China and India into our workforce and so forth. But moving on, here's Otto. This is 1950s. He's 40 years old, so he obviously looks a lot older than he is, but he's had a hard life. It sucks to be Otto. He's not happy. He hates his job. He's working in a traditional factory. A lot of us have this perceived perception of a factory as like a lot of TV shows where the drug dealers drive in one end and the good guys, drive in through the other end, and then they start shooting each other. Windows are broken out. It's just an awful place. That's the conventional wisdom. And so if this is not the way we want it, then Beavis and Butthead tell us, change it. If it sucks, get rid of it. We can't change the country, but let's focus on Salisbury, Wicomico, and the Lower Eastern Shore. Here's Ben and Vanessa. They're C students. They're bright and inquisitive, but they're not rocket scientists. So are they going to go on to college and become doctors, attorneys? I mean, we all know that in today's world, it's a real challenge. Are they going to be getting a service job or casual labor? Getting a job is like your first kiss. It comes easier to some than others. So we've got to figure out, what kind of conversation are we going to have with our youth? In today's uncertainties in the health market, they're not going to become doctors in all likelihood. A legal degree and 25 cents will get you a cup of coffee. But our parents serving as gatekeepers for their youth. Are they trying to prevent them from taking advantage of career opportunities in manufacturing that obviously are important parts to the economy? There's a multiplier effect. For every dollar that's spent, $1.40 goes into the local economy and support services. It's a double-edged sword. There's good side, bad side. Along with trying to encourage our kids into manufacturing, we've got to create new manufacturing businesses. We can argue the case as to whether or not there are 600,000 manufacturing jobs currently unfilled, but there's definitely a skills gap. So what we're trying to do is create new opportunities, remake America, get it remade here by bringing these jobs that went to China and India back here. How are we going to do that? We need to teach our kids about coding. Kids aren't going to be able to get a job in the future unless they know how to do some basic coding. The analog world is dead. Everything is digital. So we need to expand our youth into computer skills, obviously data programming. We need to start our kids when they're young as well. And that, in large measure, is by getting them to make things. If it starts as simple as Legos, or it gets them into doing some simple robotics, there's 3D printing at the desktop level. So we need to create more opportunities to let kids tinker. They need to be able to break things too in order to put them back together. So I encourage it not only at home but in our schools. They learn more by making. Knowledge is really gained through experience, less so than just being lectured to. In terms of the future opportunities for our youth in the area in manufacturing, I'm advocating that sensors is probably a great industry sector for us to develop. Wallops Flight Facility with all the unmanned activity going on. You've got 3D printers that are going on, and sensors impact every aspect of our life. Agriculture, healthcare, transportation. And so we're starting to create some local resources that are going to help facilitate expanding more access to this kind of stuff. There are co-working spaces, maker spaces, hack spaces. And so we've started one out by the airport. We're talking about bringing some of that activity downtown. And so basically I'm just saying, go away from here. Don't get in the way of your kids if they want to make things and make a career. Parental influence obviously matters. To me, it's more about skills than it is education. And let our kids be successful. Thank you.
Our next speaker was a late addition to the roster, and his introduction is going to be contained in his slideshow. So please welcome Mr. Evan Light.
No slide about that at the end. So, I'm a nerd, if you didn't guess by the Google Glass that I'm wearing. And I'm a programmer, just what Mike was talking about just a moment ago. I work in a language right now, at least, called Ruby. It's kind of popular among some people. That probably doesn't mean too much to you right now. And I run a conference you probably never heard of called Ruby Decamp. It's out in the DC area. Don't worry about that. Maybe you've heard of this thing called Ruby on Rails. Probably not. You're not programmers, the majority of you, I assume, at least. But you've probably heard of these organizations. And there was another one that was mentioned, I think it was by Garrett earlier, called Kickstarter. They're all built using Ruby on Rails. Well, the government's not. Maybe it would run better if it was. But they do use Ruby, though, for what it's worth. These are all companies that use a programming language I'm fond of. And the company I work for, Rackspace, we're an internet hosting company. And among other things, we also use Ruby, and that's one of the reasons I'm there. What's interesting about Rackspace is they're 1,700 miles away from me. They're out in San Antonio, Texas. I'm actually out in Ocean Pines. I'm sorry, I'm not from Acomoco County. I've been living in Worcester County for about the past 5 years or so. But what's interesting to me about this, and I hope it will be interesting to you guys, is thanks to the miracle of the series of tubes that are the internet, that I'm able to work from pretty much anywhere. So I'm working out here. And living in the Ocean Pines area, I see a lot of tourists. We've got a burgeoning hospitality industry. I understand you guys have a little bit of that here too. A lot of farmers. I don't see many of these guys, people like me. Now, Mike was talking about coding. Well, it's not too hard to be a coder and live pretty much wherever you want to, again, thanks to the internet. And I've tried over the years to jumpstart some interest in teaching classes in what I do for a living. Ruby on Rails, which I mentioned, that helps run a lot of these big businesses, is fairly lucrative right now, very popular in New York and San Francisco. With startups, for example. A lot of money to be made there, and that money could be here. But when I talked to various organizations, this was the kind of response that I got, that teaching these skills to people locally will not help local businesses, that it will help these people become more mobile and help them go somewhere else with these skills. Now, in the words of the inimitable Sting, if you love someone, you set them free. So maybe we should be trying to impart skills on people that might let them go somewhere else because they might come back. And if they come back and we can build a community of people who can bring money from the burgeoning internet economy here and help grow Salisbury, help grow the Eastern Shore. And that's really all I have to say. I think it was well under 5 minutes. If not, well, I don't know. I don't have a clock up here. That's my contact information. You might imagine I'm on Twitter. Go figure, right? Thank you.
Our last presenter for the evening is the author of Post-Secular Imagination, a highly anticipated book on religion and politics. He has literally traveled the world to document religious spaces and texts. He is a Fulbright scholar, Oxford University graduate. If you didn't already believe he was brilliant, he's settled right here in Salisbury as a professor at SU. Please welcome Manav Rati.
Thank you very much for that generous introduction. Before we begin, I just want to say some very brief remarks. Thank you to Jake Day for very generously inviting me to speak tonight. As was briefly mentioned in the introduction, I'm going to show some photos that depict the journeys that went into my writing this book, which came out earlier this year. And it was essentially an enormous process of learning for me to live in different communities, to live in different countries, cultures, among different religious communities, and see what we can learn from each of them, especially in the world that we live in today, where the intersection between religion and politics is becoming so intimate and so charged that the question could not be more compelling in terms of how do we live with one another? How can we have peaceful coexistence in such a world which is at once both very large and also very small? So this is the cover of the book, The Post-Secular Imagination. As my introducer mentioned, it was published earlier this year. I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago at the Ottawa International Writers Festival. This is the end product. What are the journeys that led to this book? It began at Oxford in the UK when I was working on my PhD, and the large questions that interested me were, how can religion and politics combine in ways that are mutually beneficial? And the journeys took me literally around the world, from Asia, in Italy, starting here in Siena, to look at the frescoes in the churches, to see how writers are trying to represent this enormous aesthetic space and how that can be a source of inspiration for some of these searches for values that are transcendent, some of the best aspects of Christian teachings, compassion, care for one another, charity, and how these great architectural spaces try to capture some of that and to inspire that. This took me to northern India, to the Himalayas. This is a city called Shimla, which is 7,000 feet high in the mountains. And here I lived among tribal peoples and learned from their wisdoms to see how can our interaction be with nature. This is one of the temples that they built high up in the mountains. And the lessons that they taught me were to give without expectation, to give without expectation of return, and to give as if there would be no running out of space. This is from North India, the Golden Temple, the holiest site for Sikhism, a major religion within India. About 2% of the population of India, over 1 billion people, are Sikh. This is literally gold. This is at night, walking toward where the sacred book of the Sikhs is kept within the inner chamber. And here, it was an incredibly inspiring space to see how Sikh ethics can inspire us to follow our religion, to love everybody. Taj Mahal, as we all know, great symbol of love, great symbol of devotion, sacrifice for the ruler toward his wife. Essentially, this is a tomb, but what does the inside look like? And as we got closer, I was privileged to see the actual tomb. This was where his wife is she lays here within beautiful marble. And again, the ethic that emerges, love everybody, follow your religion, even if your religion is no religion. This is the view of the Bay of Bengal from Pondicherry. Some of you might know from the novel and the film Life of Pi. It begins in this part of India. This is the view from my room and balcony. As you can see, an unobstructed panorama of the waters. People will go early in the morning at sunrise to engage in yoga, engage in meditation, the full realization of the human potential, to realize ourselves beyond borders, beyond boundaries, to tap into the limitless potential inside each of us. This is from Sri Lanka, where I lived among a Buddhist community, and this is from a temple called the Temple of the Tooth, where literally the tooth of the Buddha is contained here as an enormously sacred relic. People's paying great devotion, great honor, and veneration for the Buddha and the teachings of the Buddha. Essentially, again, give without expectation, and with great love, as you can see among these three boys in Sri Lanka. This is high up in the hills, as you can see the fog in the background, the mist in the mountains. Again, this was about 7,000 to 8,000 feet high in the air. These were my teachers. These were the people to whom I listened. This is a site in central Sri Lanka called Sigiriya. Some of you might be familiar with the TV show The Amazing Race. This is one of the challenges, to climb Sigiriya. It was an ancient palace that was here, and this was us on our way down. So it was a really perilous journey, but again, bringing out the best in us, reaching our limits, testing our limits, and it becomes incredibly affirmational that yes, we can in ways that we thought we couldn't. This is Australia, some of you might recognize, where I went and lived with the Aboriginal communities in Australia. The name of this is literally the 12 Apostles. So again, how Christianity, the greatness of Christian ethics, how they reverberate around the world and lead ultimately back to Salisbury. So how do we bring the greatness of so many religions here? It's been an enormous honor, pleasure for me to work with so many brilliant students at SU. This talk is really a celebration of the talent at SU, the diversity of talent, my wonderful graduate students, undergraduates that I've taught here. This is the last slide. Follow your religion, love everybody, even if your religion is secularism, the human potential, living in the world. Education is one of the greatest ways of honoring that ethic of loving everybody. So this is really an applause to all of you and all of the wonderful organizers. Thank you very much.
So that concludes the speaking portion of tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed that, learned something. We had some amazing presentations by some amazing people. Excuse me. We have a lot of thanks to give, and these people have earned it. I know that this part, a lot of times if you're in the audience, it's like, whatever. But seriously, Professor Paula Morris and her amazing students who helped so much, Amanda Haller, Lindsay Swink, Lonnie Liggins, Monica Abresh, and Renee Antkowiak. I got it right. I got it right. We also want to thank our Ignite planning group, which includes, first and foremost, Jake Day, who was unable to be here due to a commitment with the Army. He was actually supposed to be the MC, and I filled in for him last minute. Jake did so much work behind the scenes that none of you will ever realize, and really it was a driving force of having this, and it's really a shame that he couldn't be here, but next time. We also want to thank Jeremy Heslop, our web guru. We want to thank Melissa Johnson, Robbie Sheehan, and Wayne Smith as well. They were also huge parts of planning the event. Next up, we want to thank Mike Brenner for the guidance and inspiration. Yes. Again, Mike has a lot to do with the Ignite Baltimore event, and if you saw him 30 minutes before our event, he was scrambling to get slides in for us, so thank you, Mike. We want to thank Matt Hill and his team of students from Salisbury University who helped us out with the audio visual and all of that, so a big round of applause for them. Of course, we want to thank the owners of the Firehouse, with special thanks to Joey Gilkerson. Thank you for letting us use this space. We're going to try not to burn it down, but if we do, it's Firehouse. This makes sense. We want to thank the city leaders and volunteers for all the coordination they provided, which includes Council Vice President Laura Mitchell and the Mayor Jim Ireton. We want to thank Salisbury City Public Works. Also, Susanna Mallow and Craig Twilley from PAC 14 and Salisbury University for their help in setting up, recording everything. Craig, thank you for your graciousness as I keep moving his microphone around. I appreciate you not strangling me on that regard. Thank you, SMDI, for the photography this evening. Also to Carla. Very good. Right on cue. We want to thank DeCarlo Prenting, Specific Gravity, Rody Joe's, as well as Main Roots Coffee. Thank you for all that you guys contributed for tonight. So if we could have all the speakers come up front real quick. We want to honor you guys. You can just kind of line up, right? Wherever. For once. Let's give these guys a round of applause, guys. Come on. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning, the point of this is to start the conversation. So if you want to continue the conversation, we invite you to mingle right now. There's an official reception at Rody Joe's, and if you're not familiar where that is, it's down the plaza there in the City Center building. So we invite you all to join us there, meet these fine people, pick their brains if you heard something you like, and we hope to see you at Rody Joe's. Thank you, everyone.